Welcome to our presentation on 123Sync. This presentation will deal with tips and tricks for setting up 123Sync on multi-user environments. When you set up in a single user, it's easy, but we have very specific tools that address multi-user setups. So let's look at this sample of 123Sync installation with our demo database. If you look here, we have Chris Bell, Chris Huffman, and Ernst Anderson. Literally, it looks like they're linked to the same folders in Outlook. But if you look, in order to find out whether these folders exist or where they are, you have to click on this icon, on the folder icon, and it will show you that's on Mark III, that the folder actually, and this is called the store name, and this is the folder name. So the context is on the Mark III folder. So if you go, same thing with the calendar, you go to the calendar, to the Mark III folder. On a multi-user environment, all the users really have the same name on the context calendar tasks. So this makes really kind of confusing and also burdensome to keep track of where you actually map the folders to sync. So on our version 16.0.3.45, we now display the store name. So by just clicking on the user, you'll see which store on the Exchange or Outlook there actually are. So if you click here, oh, it's on this file. If it's there, it's on that file. So if you just click on here, you'll see that it's actually on the Tom subfolder, on the context subfolder of Tom. So this way it makes it far easier to manage multiple users and see where their contacts are actually mapped to without actually going into the burden of opening the folder using our icon. So another minor but still very productive improvement that we've added to this is if you press on the page down button on your keyboard, it goes to the next user. So if we go here and we say okay, next user, just press the page down and it will go to the next user. So you don't need to be clicking on the mouse in order to get to different users. This makes it much easier to do very quick setups, especially when you use our new built-in default retrievers. So let's go back to our old version of 123Sync. And what we used to see is if any folder that you wanted to retrieve, you had to click on the icon and retrieve the folder. What we've seen over these years is that most people that use our products tend to retrieve just the default folders because that's where everything syncs to. So the default folder is almost automatic and depending on the installation, but most installations we've seen have a default folders setting or environment. So on our new version of 123Sync, we have an icon, and if pressing this icon here with the arrow, we'll actually retrieve the default folders for the Outlook settings that you have set up under Outlook. So if you have different profiles, it will open the profile and get that folder. Or if you have an Exchange server, it will retrieve the data that is actually on the Exchange. It will retrieve the server and the mailbox from the Exchange and get those default folders. So in our case, we can go in here and say, okay, for Chris Bell, we want the default folders. Click on that, and that's it. Now we have all the default folders set up. We can even double check. We click on the icon, and there's Outlook data, and that's the default folders that we got set up for this system. So let's just assume that we've opened the ACT database and we have 3 users that we need to set up very quickly. First thing we do is set up the Outlook connection or the Exchange connection for each user. In our case, we use the same, and then all we have to do is click on the default folder button and then just go page down, and that will page down. So now we have set up all the default folders for all the users, and by using the page down and just clicking on the button for that to retrieve the folders. Just remember one thing though. Here we're using a single Outlook profile, so just for demonstration purposes. In real life, you'll have a profile, and in that profile, there's only one default folder. So if you keep on pressing the default folders, all the users are going to have the same default. You don't want to do that. You want to set up this profile, the Outlook profile or the Exchange profile, properly before you start using or setting the default folders for each user using our default retrieval mechanism. So now let's take the same mechanism that we've implemented here, and we've implemented the same mechanism on the emails. So now you'll have the inbox has a folder name and a store name that you can retrieve. We can just enable this for Chris Bell, and if you click here, and there's all the defaults. That's going to be the inbox and the sent items. So for this user, we have the inbox sent items, and it took us, 2 seconds to set up the default folders for these two items. Another item that we have created to address large installations is the concept of the template user. This is a user that you set up with all the settings, and you test the user, and you run the sync, and you kind of fine-tune all the settings that you want in 1-2-3 sync, and then you propagate those settings to the rest of the user base. So in our case here we have Chris Bell, and we just got all the settings here, and then we just want to set up process all the contacts. We don't want any notes in our or we don't want sales opportunities, only notes. On the activities themselves, we want all to-dos to go to tasks. That's fine. And then on the content body text, we also want the notes to go in there. So we set up this and set up all the sync settings for the user, and also all the email settings that we want. And all these settings together now can be copied. Now that we're happy with Chris Bell and how the sync occurs with Chris Bell, we can copy all these basic settings to all the other users. So the way to copy the settings, you just go to Tools, Administration, Copy Selected User Settings. So we'll take Chris Bell, which is our selected user, and then we can copy these settings to Chris and Ernst Anderson. So this way, with a click of a button, you just copy everything, and all the user independent settings are copied from Chris Bell over to Chris Huffman and Ernst Anderson. It's a very quick way of getting all the settings copied across a whole selection of users. So now you've set up all the users to sync. So we know that if we click on the synchronize button, all the users are selected to be synchronized. So by doing this, we get all the users are listed. However, if you decide you only want to synchronize Chris Huffman, you can just go in here and delete him from the selected list, and only Chris Huffman will get synced. So not all the users get synced, and only Chris Huffman. So that's a good way of just synchronizing and testing a single user. A different way of doing this is if you click on the processing, Chris process selected users, and that will only Ernst Anderson, which is the one that's been selected, only that will be synchronized. So it's a way of not having to undo any settings and very quickly just synchronize one user. Last but not least, if you decide that you don't want to be logged in as Ernst Anderson as the admin username for the ACT database, and if you prefer to have a different username, or if you have changed the password, if you click on Browse, If you click here and you retrieve the new database or the same database, all the settings will be reset. So all the work that you've done for all the users are reset. So clicking on the browse, basically, it's almost like a fresh way of starting 123Sync with a particular ACT database. If things change and you want to change it, there's tools that will help you. One of them is administration login. You can go and you say, okay, I want to change it. So you can say, okay, I don't want to be Ernst Anderson, I want to be Chris Huffman. So Chris Huffman, then you put in the password, and now the login is different and basically just brings it in as part of your access to ACT. And final, we have another tool that we provide, and one of them is ACT does not open redirected drives while running in the background. So if this drive here, if this is instead of a C, if it's an X and it is a redirected drive in Windows, ACT will not open it when running as a service. So what happens is you get stuck. You've done all the work to set up and you're stuck and you don't want to lose this work. So we offer a very easy way to change that. So go into administration and you change the ACT database path. So that will, all this will do, it will retrieve the database, and this is if it's the 2014, and it will just change it here. This concludes our presentation on tips and tricks on 123Sync. These tools, we continuously keep improving and adding tools to our product to make deployment on 123Sync easy. So any comments or any suggestions or that you want to give us, they're all welcome, and contact us through 123sync.com for more information, or just contact your integrator. They'll be able to help you.